Right now, thick oil is oozing deeper into the fragile marshes of the Mississippi Delta, forcing a public beach in Grand Isle, Louisiana to close. The spill disaster now beginning its second month, with at least 6 million gallons of crude tainting the Gulf of Mexico and the wetlands. Disaster crews are keeping close watch on the leaking well, preparing for a new round of desperate measures to try to seal it off. A day after BP released a live underwater video feed, the Obama administration is facing questions about whether it's been tough enough on the oil company. Our senior White House correspondent Ed Henry is standing by, but let's go to CNN's David Mattingly. He's in New Orleans with the latest on what's going on. They're desperate right now, David, I sense. They're trying to do everything they can.
That's right, Wolf. The word we got today is that we're going to have to wait just a little bit longer before BP tries to shut down this well. It's a very familiar notice, but they were telling us just up until today that they were expecting this weekend, late this weekend, to possibly try that so-called top kill, where they were going to flood the system with this heavy liquid to essentially drown the well, counteract all that pressure that's coming out of that with that liquid, and then seal it off with cement. That's what they've been talking about for weeks now, and now they're saying it's going to take at least a couple of more days. The reason for that, they've tried it before on land and it's worked. They've tried it before in shallow water and it's worked. They've never tried it at this depth, so they're going to try and make sure that it works the first time. Listen.
Our current forecast for when this operation will take place will be sometime early in the coming week. Our best estimate at the moment is probably Tuesday, but I would stress that these operations are quite complex, and we won't start the job until all of the equipment is staged and everything is in place.
David, there's the other controversy involving the dispersants that they're supposed to use. Some are apparently a lot more toxic than others. The EPA has some ideas. Is BP cooperating on this front?
Well, the EPA told BP that last night they had to get back to them and say, we want you to explore for another alternative. Well, BP got back to them and said, okay, well, we've explored. We don't have another alternative that we're confident is less toxic and more effective. So now they're going to continue their conversations. But at this point, BP's saying we're using the dispersant that we have, and we're going to keep using it until we come up with a better alternative.
It's a real mess, to put it bluntly. Stand by. David, let's go over to the White House right now, where there are new serious questions about whether the president has taken charge of this disaster or let BP run the show. Our senior White House correspondent, Ed Henry, is working this part of the story. The White House press secretary, Robert Gibbs, Ed, had a tough time today with those reporters.
He did, Wolf. It was the second day in a row. Robert Gibbs got a lot of tough questions. I started it off yesterday with some of my colleagues, my colleague Dan Lothian today, and other reporters really pressing him on the point of how can you trust BP at this point, as David Mattingly has laid out so well in terms of the shifting stories and statements. And some reporters today basically pressing Robert Gibbs, why doesn't the government step in? How can you continue to stand by? And why not take over? Robert Gibbs basically saying, look, the company is in charge here, and reporters were pushing back and saying, but are you just an innocent bystander, just basically a spectator watching as this drags on? Robert Gibbs said, look, both legally and practically, the company is in charge.
The technical expertise to clean up and deal with the equipment that is 5,000 feet below the surface of the sea, that's equipment that BP has. That's the equipment that other oil companies have. That is not based on equipment that the federal government has in storage.
Now, and also Robert Gibbs pointing out there are a lot of public servants providing oversight here, pushing the company, trying to get this done. He noted, for example, Thad Allen, who you've had on, the Commandant of the Coast Guard. He was supposed to have retired by now, but has delayed that in order to stay on and finish this job. Reporters pressed, though, Robert Gibbs on, are you confident that BP is going to get this done early next week, as David Mattingly was reporting? Is it going to finally work this time? Robert Gibbs would only say he's hopeful. He wouldn't really express confidence in BP at this point. It shows the dilemma this administration is facing as it's sort of watching BP try to finish this job, Wolf.
Did you get into the whole issue of how many barrels a day are really oozing out of that oil spill? Yesterday when we spoke with Lisa Jackson, the EPA administrator, she said it's a lot more than the 5,000 a day. Worst case, maybe 60,000 barrels a day. What are they saying at the White House?
At the White House, they're basically saying we don't know, and that's one of the problems that they're facing right now. And what I was pressing Robert Gibbs on yesterday was why are you not getting more data from the company about both the amount of barrels of oil spilling out, number one, but number two, the data on the air quality. There have been fishermen in that region saying they're coughing, they're vomiting. They think that the air quality is poor, and as a result of that, and the federal government has not really gotten this data. That's why the EPA wrote that letter yesterday to the company urging that they start turning over this data, and they set some deadlines. We'll see if they actually turn that data over, Wolf.
Ed Henry working the story at the White House.